Hello, hello, hello. All right, and welcome back to the channel, and welcome to episode 8 of Walk and Talk with Jimmy. Can't believe it's already been 8 episodes, and I am super grateful and thankful for all the early support. As of the shooting of this video, we just hit 180 subscribers, and that's less than 2 months. So I just really appreciate it, and thank you for subscribing and supporting this joyful warrior effort that we're going to be taking on. Another really cool thing happened, and don't forget this, I'm going to say it right. I don't have this in front of me, but a YouTuber by the name of Shiloh, if I get this wrong, I will definitely cut this back in. But Shiloh shouted me out and, started a accountability blog. It's a very good skateboarder, records himself doing some skateboard videos, and, just really aligned with the message on this channel. So thank you for the shout out. And, I'm glad that you are continuing to grow your channel as well. For today's video, I saw this quote on LinkedIn. I want to say it was posted by Stephen Bartlett. And if you don't know who Stephen Bartlett is, he has the podcast Diary of a CEO, where he interviews, he's interviewed everybody, tons of CEOs, doctors, philosophers, some of my favorite philosophers and podcasters have appeared on the show. But, he posted this thing earlier today, it talked about, when you talk to a really good leader, you feel like you're the most important person or the smartest person. When you're talking to a really good manager, you feel like they are. And, people really enjoy working or spending time with leaders. And that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with a person's title. But I do think it's a very, very important distinction. And I think about just my personal journey as a leader, where when I was coming up, there was definitely times that I felt it was important for me to demonstrate a high level of competency. And those were times in my career that I definitely felt that I was a good manager and not necessarily a leader. And I was focused on, really, if I'm being transparent and vulnerable, proving myself, especially in my younger age, when I was often questioned because of my age, decisions I made, or, how I was able to obtain my position. And so, reflecting back on that, I found that a lot of that wanting me to demonstrate how smart I was or take charge and do a little bit more work versus being able to really lead, I was a really good manager, was due to some of that insecurity. As I've done this longer, I've definitely hit in that space where you want to work smarter, not harder. And I'm always challenging my team to think about how do we do it more efficiently without energy, so we can spend time doing the work that really matters. And usually for whatever industry that is, like, it's taking care of your customers, your communities, your clients. So if you can spend more time, connecting versus the doing, I think it's a little bit more powerful. So one of the foundational things that I think is really important to separate a good leader from a really good manager is a leader often leads with trust. And there's a level of trust and understanding that the individuals on that person's team, whether this is sports, business, etc., that the leader believes that they're competent and capable to do the task at hand. And there's not a level of micromanaging, there's a level of trust and freedom that give the person the autonomy to kind of get creative and bring their own unique perspective. And when people get to bring their own unique perspective to something, or they get to talk about themselves, it gets them interested, it gets them invested. Where a manager usually is going to spell things out and take away that creativity. And it's not to say that you don't find people that need that level of direction or really enjoy it, but I found that people that aspire to be leaders or upcoming leaders usually like the challenge of having that autonomy and the flexibility to figure out how to get to the finish line. It's always been a little bit of my leadership style. It's always been a little bit of my leadership style, even when I think about when I was running different teams, when I spent time, with Cabela's or Toys R Us. I never really tried to put time limits on things and overload my teams with work. Good afternoon. It wasn't about overloading my teams with work. It was about let's getting the critical tasks done, our merchandising, our shelves filled to make sure that our customers can come in and have a great experience. And then we spent the rest of the time being available for our customers and doing light touch up. And the faster and more efficient we got those tasks done, the more time we got to focus on the fun part of our jobs. I was waiting for our customers, helping them find the product, doing demos. But it's really hard to do that in a store when you don't have the foundations and the basics right. And I think that lesson can apply to a lot of different areas of leadership. Leading with a place of trust and vulnerability, being comfortable with your team making mistakes, which oftentimes may accelerate their learning journey, is a really great place to start. It doesn't mean that we don't have standards and we can't defend the standards and we can't get feedback on the quality of work. But I do approach every situation, if I'm assigning a mission or a task, that the person that I'm talking to is competent enough to be able to deliver on that. And I think that trust is really, really important. I know I value that in the professional relationships where my supervisor is giving me trust and the autonomy. And they just say, hey, we need to figure this out. And I have the space to figure it out. I have the time to figure it out, to come back with a solution, the space to try new ideas, gather data, see what works, see what doesn't work. And there's not time that, clearly, hey, we have to hit it by a deadline. But if I can figure out a way to get it even faster because I have that creative space to do so, those have been the environments that I personally have always thrived best in, that I try to create for others. In a book I referenced before on this channel, The Multiplier Effect by Liz Wiseman, one of my favorite books, she talks about this concept a little bit as well. Like that leader that leads with vulnerability and trust versus that one that's a micromanager. And I think she uses the term really diminishers versus multipliers. Really good leaders grab the intelligence from their team and they're able to multiply it. They take advantage of all their team's experiences and skill sets and failures, and they create environments that have substantial or really rich learning experiences. But a diminisher, because they're so focused on controlling the end experience and how it's going to be done, doesn't allow for that level of creativity. And people are often drained. Their energy is drained because people ultimately don't like to be told what to do. They like that creative space. People want to be told what to do to some extent, like they want good direction. But there's a level of freedom and trust that a leader should be able to provide. And the ones that do that, their teams work a little bit harder. Actually, their teams work substantially harder. They're able to get a lot more done and they're able to run further. They're able to withstand a lot more challenges. Versus with a diminisher, the decision-making process is slowed down because everything has to go through that one person. And I just think it's interesting how all these things are connected. In another book that I was listening to, and I can't remember the name of it now, but I was talking about this in my listening episode about demonstrating interest in the person that's talking and how that is such a powerful tool. Allows people to open up, and if you want somebody to be vulnerable, start by really being a good listener. And I find it's really important as a leader to be a really good listener. And when I'm talking the most in my meetings, or versus letting my team lead their experiences or let my team lead their particular work functions, we're often slowed down and a little bit stuck. Versus when I trust the people I put in place to make really good decisions, great things usually happen. And I'm allowed to look at it from a different perspective and give perspective or feedback to course correct a little bit if we need to, without taking the individual's power or autonomy away. So just a little food for thought, something that's been on my mind. This is probably going to be a little bit shorter of an episode. A little bit muggy today, had a lot of rain today, so just definitely taking a shorter walk. But if you haven't done so already, if you heard something that resonated, or even if you didn't, drop a comment, like and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate all the early support. Good evening, how you doing? Appreciate all the early support so far. And if you haven't done so already, you like the video, take a moment to share it. Share it with a friend. We're growing this Joyful Warrior campaign. And again, I've been so humbled by all the early support. It has been really, really great experience. So with that said, thanks for clicking on the video. See you all soon.